Perfect. And we are live with the Go to Network show. And this week, my co-host is James Munro. James, give everyone at home a wave. Yes.
It feels like I'm waving to my mum, who's
Dance.
probably the only one watching at this stage. Hi, Mum. Good to see you again.
It's recorded for your mum as well, so she can watch it over the weekend, give you some tips back as well.
Yeah, lovely. She'll put the reading glasses on and get the subtitles on and everything. So, yeah, lovely.
Great to have you here. Obviously, so you are an enterprise AE at WorkVivo, which is, do you call it like a subdivision, a sub-brand? What do you call it of Zoom? A Zoom brand? How do you position it?
Yeah. So we're WorkVivo by Zoom officially. So I think everyone knows LinkedIn, hopefully, as well on LinkedIn. So very much WorkVivo is to Zoom as LinkedIn is to Microsoft. That's probably the best way of putting it. Yeah. So a separate company. You don't need to be a Zoom customer to use WorkVivo. You can be completely separate, but if you are a Zoom customer, obviously you're very welcome to use WorkVivo as well. So yeah, a bit of a double-edged sword there.
Perfect. And you're focused on enterprise, so I'm excited to talk today about building trust in those relationships, because you're talking about $1 million contracts. If someone's going to sign that, there might not be their money, but it's certainly their job that's on the line if it doesn't go well. So we'll touch on that today.
Yeah, their job and a few other things. Yeah, CJ. Yeah, happy to talk about it.
Awesome. But to start, 10 years in sales. Congratulations. I think. What's changed over the 10 years?
Yeah, 10 years in sales, that actually freaked me out a little bit when you mentioned that the other day. What's changed in 10 years? I think we drink less now than we used to back in the day. I think that's definitely changed. I think there's more extremes now, I'd say. I think there's more extremes in sales in terms of what people do and they don't do. Definitely something I've seen is attention spans have changed a lot. And I think you can see that with your social media trends and things like that. People use they watch stories. I'm sure, we're 2 minutes in, people have already started looking at their emails on their other screen or scrolling through their phone or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Our attention spans are rubbish now. They used to be a lot better 10 years ago. So the types of content, I think the way you engage with people is a lot different now. Even though I think people are more open now. My first kind of sales job, I was a BDR for hire, essentially. So I worked for an independent company that would get contracted out to Google, Dell, IBM, whoever, basically, and sold the leads to those companies. So it was a pretty dark time, just cold calling. And you had these, so you had a meeting per day or 2 meetings per day target, and then you had these effectives. So it's basically around 15 to 20 effectives per day, which was like a conversation with someone that was half meaningful. So very archaic, but yeah, it was pure cold calling. And the showing my age here, but the CRM system we were using was probably as advanced as teletext. That was the level of system that we were using, and having to type in all our little effectives and things like that. So it's changed a lot. So I think people are more kind of innovative now. You've got to be different. I think there's so many ways you can reach out to people. There's so many ways you can connect with people. I think you've got to be different. You've got to think outside the box, really. I don't think sending a dear first name email works that well anymore. I think it's going to be hyper-personalized. There's a lot of cold calling back in the day, which I think there's less of now, but I think COVID's kind of changed that a little bit. People aren't in offices, less likely to give out your mobile phones and things like that. But those are kind of the first things that come to mind, really.
So when you said kind of like SDR, BDR for hire, like different company each week, like you had a script you had to do, like how much of a factory was this place?
Yeah, I mean, we were tied up to the phones. No, it wasn't quite that bad. Although I did have one day where the boss actually didn't let me sit down until I booked a meeting.
No way.
We didn't have an HR team, so I think he got away with that. But yeah, when I left, I did quote that when he said he was going to take me to court, because I left without serving my notice, which was the advice of the office manager. But that's another story for another time. But it's normally a month or 2 month project, right? So Google, as an example, I worked for them for a couple of months. We were actually based at the Google offices, but we worked for this company separate to that. So And then, yeah, every day you had to book 2 meetings or a meeting, depending on the type of product you were selling, or maybe you were promoting an event or things like that. So it was very factory-like, all about numbers, not really about the personal relationships, all about numbers. Still friends with a lot of the guys from there today. And we'll talk about one of them maybe later on. But yeah, still friends with a lot of the guys there today, but because I think we went through those hard times.
It's the trenches.
Yeah, in the trenches, and then we always enjoyed ourselves afterwards. Like I said, we did go for too many beers back then. Yeah.
And so then being able then to move more into kind of a traditional BDR role going forward, where I suppose you did email cadences as well. You're trying to build relationships. What was different as you progressed?
Yeah, again, I think so. I kind of had a weird career where I went from BDR to an AE for a luxury tea company, which was very different to tech, right? So I was doing BDRing, the AE role, the selling role, and then the customer success role all in one. So when I went to tech and they were like, "Oh no, we actually split out those roles," I was like, "This is brilliant. This makes total sense." But yeah, so yeah, I kind of went on a weird route, and that's why I went from AE kind of back to BDR. And I know for another show, Chris Ritson might mentioned it, but yeah, I was hired by Chris back in the day, back in 2017. Again, like I think it was about being different, and that was when I started there. It was very early days about outreach on LinkedIn. So we did have the email cadences with, there's the 2 big ones, Sales Loft and Outreach. Obviously, there's a lot of cold calling, but smart cold calling. Obviously, you had Chris on the show, and he's very much don't call 300 times a day. Be a bit smarter with the calling. Obviously, focus on the numbers. I did a lot of LinkedIn stuff. I always try and be different, so it could be a voice note on LinkedIn, or like a mini video on LinkedIn, or you comment on that post and you say, "Oh, I was really interested in that post." You do the research, obviously, and you read the post, and you've got to be genuine with it. And I'll talk about that. You've got to be authentic with it. But that was kind of how I started and how I picked up kind of leads like that, and then building up that network of, okay, not now, but when, sort of thing. And that, I think Chris talked about the nurturing piece. I think it's really important. I think in sales, as long as your product's good, it's never a no, it's a not now, basically. So I think you've got to keep those, that warm, and it might not be now for that company, but they might go to another company which might be a better fit, or whatever it is. So I think it's keeping that momentum going forward. And sales is all about momentum, I think, ultimately.
Yeah. And then of course, like, the longer you stay in an industry, the more you know the industry, the more when someone does change company and they now have budget, you're kind of top of the list, because it's like, well, this person for 2.5 years has said I could probably benefit from their product. I've got to believe them somewhat.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, it's again, cheesy line, people buy from people, right? So, and I've always felt, again, being different, people don't like to be sold to, but they love to buy. If you're talking to your friends, they'll talk about, "Oh, I bought this, I bought that." They'll never say, "Oh, someone sold this to me."
Yeah.
Unless they're kind of like us, a bit of a geeky sales guy, and we kind of like the process, we find it interesting, we play along with it. So I think that's a really interesting part. I've always tried to make sure that people find it easy to buy from me rather than me selling to them. And okay, if they can't buy it at that moment, great, but maybe they can down the line with another company, or they might meet someone and say, "Hey, whatever product worked, Vivo wasn't a good fit for me at this time, but I think you should have a look at these guys." And that's happened a lot over the years. And like repeat selling is the mark of a really good salesperson. I think if they're selling to the same person at different companies, or that network at different companies, I think that's really, really important.
And I suppose as well, now you're enterprise, in a deal, you'll work, there'll be multiple stakeholders. And so you've also got greater likelihood of one of those moving to another company and being like, "Oh, well, I liked buying from James. Let's at least see whether it's a fit here as well."
Yeah. And I think that's very tricky. I think I still use the question I stole from you, selfishly, what does everyone want?
Love it.
I paraphrase it. I can't quite get away with being that direct with it, but I still use that question from when we worked together. I think you've got to make sure everyone in the room is happy. Enterprise what's very interesting is there's a lot of politics. There's politics obviously on the deal from you to them a little bit. There's a lot of internal politics that you've got to know and find out about. Oh, this IT person's the loudest person in the room. We have to make sure they're happy, even though it's HR or comms or sales or whoever that makes the decision, right? So I think it's understanding those internal relationships is really, really important to then unlock the deal and unlock the challenges in the deal. Because I think you need to know, is everyone happy at the end of the deal? And is selfishly everyone happy and personally everyone happy there? I think that's really, really key. I think that's the harder part of enterprise deals. You've got to know the account really well, and you've got to know the politics in the account to unlock potential challenges you have down the road.
So then, I love this. Then on the topic of trust, then, so of course the company, if you kind of treat it as a whole entity, needs to trust you to buy it. How do you determine whether that individual needs to trust you as well? And what is it then that uniquely you need to not promise them, but make them feel like they've been heard and understood? So how do you determine, okay, there's 30 people in this deal. Here are the 10 that actually they need to trust me as an individual, not just trust Workvivo?
I think there's a couple of sides to it. I think one is the mechanism of how you sell. And I think we've discussed this before, but I think our role as an enterprise AE or even a SaaS AE in general, we're not really selling to that person 9 times out of 10. We're almost sales trainers to train that person to then pitch the product to the CFO, to the decision maker, the economic buyer, if you want to get technical about it, whoever that is. So we're sales trainers rather than salespeople. So there's a slight difference there because you've got to make them comfortable to go in the room and fight on your behalf or the product's behalf. So I think that there's a slight tweak there. So I think you've almost got to train them and condition them or be very open and upfront with them in terms of what do you need to feel comfortable. And you're going to have some, I've always been very direct, whether it's my friends or whether it's people that I'm working with or prospects or different companies, and just said, look, and I like to challenge them. And I like to be challenged back. What do you need? What are you missing?
Yeah.
You've got to go and stand there and go, I want $1 million for this. Are you comfortable doing that? No. Okay. Why aren't you comfortable doing that? Oh, because of X, Y, Z. Okay, then this is how I can help you. So I think that openness, that authenticity, and showing that vulnerability as well is very, very key. You're not going to know every answer, even though I'm sure we've both met salespeople over the years who pretend to, right? But making sure that they're armed with the answers they need for the room, and they know the room. They know.
Yeah.
The CFO is very focused on these metrics, or they're very focused on this return over X amount of time, or whatever. So I think that's the kind of difference with SaaS and especially enterprise. You're not really selling to the person in front of you; you're selling to the person you don't see. I think that's it's really important to know that, and really important to know what they want there.
And then how often are you leveraging the fact that you're, somewhat of an industry expert, having worked in employee experience for about 5 years at Peakon, you've now been nearly 2 years at Workvivo. Like, how often are you kind of educating a little bit as well, even when you are dealing with, like a senior chief of title in a public company?
Yeah, I think it's important to know that in your company, whatever you're selling, you're the expert there, right? So I know about Workvivo better than the company that I'm pitching to, obviously, or I know about Peakon better than the companies I was pitching to back then. I hate the fact I'm quoting Chris Ritson a lot in this call, but he talked about you've got to give to receive.
Yeah,
I think he could improve that sentence, to be honest with you. I know it's a Friday, but I think with any relationship, it's a two-way street. And I think that's really, really important. I think it's the same in sales. I think you've got to give people value, and you've got to exchange ideas together rather than just ask. And the amount of AEs, junior AEs I see who just say, when are you going to sign? What's your budget? And it's all very transparent. Whereas if you go, okay, well, what do we need to do to get to this outcome, or how you can work together on it? It's not you versus them, it's us versus the company. And I think that transition is very important. So I think giving them knowledge and giving them, I think you've also got to prove yourself, right? You know, it's like in a social situation, you've got to be, you know, you've got to have the ability to make the first joke or add value to the social situation. If you meet a group of, you know, friends as an example, you've got to put something interesting there for them to engage with you. Otherwise, you'll just be like, oh, who's that guy just standing there by himself in the corner, not saying anything, right? You've got to bring value to any relationship, right? I'm sure we've had relationships, you know, friends of friends or friends over the years who've fallen to the wayside. That's probably because they haven't brought you value, and you probably haven't brought them value either, right? So I think that's really important.
So enterprise deal takes a long time. How are you continuously bringing value? Like you know, you're trying to give to receive. You're trying to find out what's going on in the deal. Maybe they've not emailed you for 2 weeks. What are you doing to keep building the trust, to show that you're knowledgeable, to show that they should give you something back?
Yeah, I think there's a few ways you can do it. I think it depends on, as I said earlier, the momentum of the deal is really, really key. You know, you can call enterprise deals whatever you want. You know, you can call them elephants. You know, they take a long time to turn around, but then when they're moving, they're moving. You know, oil tankers, again, same concept. I think you've got to keep it moving in some sense. So understanding their process is really key. As I said, we're sales trainers at the end of the day, but also we have to help them buy. So they might not know the sales process. You know, we obviously both worked in selling a customer success platform for a while. I feel customer success are the heroes are the unsung heroes in a lot of companies, but they're not used to buying, like IT, like sales, like HR a little bit. So you've got to help them in that buying process. So ask them the processes. And if they don't know, so this is what we normally do, double check, you know, and almost just bounce off each other. I think that's really key. So help them in their kind of internal company politics, as I mentioned, is really key. And also, what do they like? You know, do you know personal things about them? Have an interaction with them. I know in an enterprise deal, I'm going to be talking to a person for about a year.
Yeah.
Right. Don't want to jump on the call and go, yeah, so this deal, hey, what about it? Or don't want to jump on and go, I was on a call earlier, and this contact I was speaking to from this company went to Lagos in Portugal. Family holiday, beautiful. There was an earthquake there. He went 9 years ago. There was an earthquake 9 years ago in Portugal, the same place he went to. So we had a big joke about every time he goes there, the locals run for the hills because obviously he's going to bring an earthquake, right? Like some weird earthquake god. But it's important to have that social interaction because they're going to be your professional mates for a year, right? So make sure they're, Gabe always talks about it. I'm sure you'll get him on the show soon, but he talks about wanting to make people happy after they've had a call with them. I really like that idea because it's, so I live by a fire station. If you can hear the fire engine in the background, I'm not getting arrested. So I think it's making sure people are happy, you know, in the call, making sure that moving forward, they enjoy talking to you. So it could be value from a professional perspective, from a technical perspective, or from a social perspective, you know. And I love to travel, trying to get to as many countries as I can, as quickly as I can. 66 at the moment, so we'll see what I can do. But lots of the countries that I've been to have been recommendations from friends, from people I've been working with, from prospects, whatever that is, and that's kind of how I connect as well. And again, back to the authenticity piece, back to the openness piece. I think people have got to know you for you, and again, that ties in with the wider thing of people buy from people.
Yeah, love it. So how do you go about opening an opportunity and showing the authenticity kind of before they've even met you? As an enterprise AE, are you still doing your own outbound? I don't think you're probably cold calling anymore. Like how much assistance are you getting? When are you brought in? How does that all look? And how do you, if it is started with someone else, transfer the trust over to you? And if you are doing outbound, how do you say you can trust me without saying you can trust me at the first meeting?
Yeah. So luckily I don't do a lot of cold calling anymore. I'm definitely not doing the numbers I did when I was 21 or 22 coming out of university. I do a bit of LinkedIn outbounding. Again, I try and like hyper personalize it, and I've got a meeting with a big 30,000 person business in the UK, which funny enough was from a network. So when I tried selling to the politics in that company, unfortunately we couldn't sell to them. Got on very well with a contact there, and she referred me into this guy. So again, part of that network and bringing that together, so do a little bit of that. We have inbound leads. We have obviously BDRs outbounding for us as well. The marketing team at Workview are great, bringing stuff in for us. We do a lot of events. The management team have really backed us with some big kind of spending initiatives at a higher level and things like that. So there's a real mix, I think. And something back to your question about 10 years in sales, something I've seen is there's a lot less discovery than there used to be, in my opinion. And I've always been very inquisitive and always been very big on the discovery piece. And I feel that shows that you care.
Yeah.
Because you're not a one size fits all. I want to know, you're Christian, you're buying, and these are the reasons you're buying, and these are the reasons the company are buying. So whether it comes direct to me and there's been no kind of touch points beforehand, whether it's come via a BDR who's done 9 times out of 10 very good discovery on it anyway, I still want to go and do my discovery piece and understand a bit more about what they're doing, what they're looking for, and things like that. And I think that's how you build trust. And also, I think that's how you manage that relationship. I think, again, we live in such an environment now where it's so transactional, it's so quick. You go into a shop and you go, hello, how you doing? And you go, yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you? Yeah, I'm good. And it's very transactional.
Yeah.
No one actually cares how the other person's doing. But actually, if you show a bit of compassion, you show like you actually care, and you're asking lots of open-ended questions, that's a really good way of building trust as well.
Yeah, it's funny because I agree with you, but it's a very English thing to say because we don't have massive tipping culture. So, hello, how are you? Good, good, great. We've ticked the box that we need to open a conversation with. Now we can actually do the transaction. Then you go to America and you're like, how are you? Good. How are you? And they fully give you the answer, and you're like, what's happened? Why? You're just meant to say good. And then we move on.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you're pulled into this relationship. And then at the end, you're like, well, no, I should tip Jenny. She was really good. And, she's got a young kid. And you're like, what the heck? How has this happened?
Because then you care, right? And they care as well. They care probably more financially in America, in that tipping culture. But, they want you to be part of that story and things like that.
I love it. So you said you always try and be different. What are you seeing out there as new ways to outbound, new ways to kind of open up deals and build a relationship? What have you stopped doing? What are you starting to do? And what do you think's next in the future for you and for others?
Yeah, I think it's a lot more personal than it used to be. Emails, I just think, are a means to an end. I think people are just saturated with emails. The amount of random emails you get in your inbox every day is pretty crazy. I think it's about personalization. So whether that's your personal brand on LinkedIn, whether that's just who you are as a kind of person. I like kind of video messages, short, sharp video messages. People are working from home more, and you can tailor it, and they can get tone of voice, and they can get body language, and they can kind of get to know you as a person, even though they've never met you before. I quite like that idea, and Vidyard did that for a while. LinkedIn, you can obviously do that pretty easily on LinkedIn. Personalization's got to be the forefront of it, and just again, discovery, reading through profiles. I've got an old colleague who has buried in his About Me section on his LinkedIn profile, if you want to reach out for job opportunities, please reference Lord of the Rings.
Amazing.
So we'll get all these LinkedIn messages being like, so-and-so, would you like to come work for us, blah, 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 blah. But then maybe 5% will drop in a little, so-and-so, you could be our new Gandalf. Do you want to come and lead the hobbits into, to Mount Doom and defeat our competitors and all that stuff? And that's amazing. And he always responds. He'll always take a call. And I think that shows like how important personalization is. And obviously people aren't going to leave, little Easter eggs on their profiles to be reached out to. I love the idea though, but connect with people. Again, care about people, personalize it to people. The point about attention, you've got to capture their attention in probably 5 words or less. So
yeah,
that's really important. How can you capture someone's attention in 5 words or less? And when I work with the BDRs and they put together emails or whatever, the first question I ask is, would you respond to this email? And 80% of the time they go, no. And then my response is, then why are you sending it?
yeah.
So I think short and sweet and personalized, and show that you care. Even if you put together a video, even though you might hate how you look on video, whatever that is, you put together the effort, and also you put together the effort with a network. Even if you could say, if they say, no, James, sorry, not interested. Do you know anyone else you would be? That's a slightly warmer lead than it would have been before. And I think, again, people work from people, power of the networks, really, really powerful. How many times have we got leads from the CS team? As an example,
Yeah.
people are willing to vouch for you. Slightly warmer lead. There's that personalization. You've shown that you care before. It all links together.
Do you think then, you've really built out your career and employee experience, which then helps you, it shows that you care, and also the network effects compound. The longer you're selling to a similar role, the more likely it is that you've met them before, that they're willing to vouch for you. Do you think it's important for sellers, or anyone in tech, to figure out not just the role that they like, but the industry that they like selling to or dealing with? Or did you fall into it accidentally? And is it you can love anything once you love the nuance?
Yeah, good question. I fell into HR tech, funny enough, because I did at the tea company I worked at, I did an anonymous staff survey. And a good friend of mine who's actually getting married next week, we're still in touch, part of the network, was leaving the company. And I said, mate, I'm not going to fill out this survey. Just fill it in for me. And he obviously was leaving, so he's probably more constructive than I would have been. Anyway, fast forward a month, the CEO and the finance manager kind of came in and said, oh, James, can you have a chat with us? And I was like, yeah. And I got grilled pretty hard by the CEO saying, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm okay. And he was basically grilling me about my survey results. And he said, oh, we've got these survey results and they're not great. And I said, okay, but they're anonymous, so I can't say whether they are or aren't. So I had that experience, and he grilled. We had 3 or 4 separate meetings where he just grilled me on this, and then he basically said, I think it's you. And I was like, what's the point in an anonymous survey?
Yeah.
Come out after me. So I had that experience, and then I saw Peakon. Loved the fact that they cared about what people thought. Loved the fact that it was for everyone in the company. Got the whole employee experience thing. We're not just another cog in a wheel. Small startup, which was interesting. The team were great at Peakon. Amazing team there. And it kind of snowballed from there. And then the more I got into it, again, you're talking with HR people who do care about people for the most part. And then it kind of stemmed from there. I still use a lot of that experience today at WorkVivo, which is a slightly different piece. Focus more on internal communications, bringing everyone together. And then also there's an engagement element, which is more around the sense of belonging than the sense of bringing your full self to work. Slight tweak, but yeah, I think I really care about people. I think ultimately, that sounds like a bit of a cheesy line. Some people just are more kind of transactional. They care more about money, or they care about more getting up the ladder, or whatever it is. I took a bit of a step back going to Peakon, but I loved it, and I loved the industry. I'd say also not only the industry, but also something you're passionate about. As an example, I couldn't sell water. Don't get me wrong, I love water. I drink a lot of water, but I couldn't go and tell someone, oh, you're drinking Buxton, you should actually drink Volvic or whatever it is. I couldn't. You got to find also something you're interested in. But I'd say whatever you're doing, think 2 steps ahead. You're going to this company, great, that's what step 1, but what's step 2? Where would you go after that? And I think when I started thinking about that, I thought it was very interesting in terms of what I looked for, why I looked for it, things.
Super cool. And so that's very interesting. What's your next step?
I mean, very happy at Work Vivo.
If anyone from Work Vivo is watching, very happy.
My manager's watching. Yeah, very happy at Work Vivo. I'd like to do more stuff around helping angel investors or angel investing or helping or consulting with companies. I've obviously, unfortunately got 10 years experience somehow in sales, and I've seen a few things. I had a couple of exits now, seen what worked, seen what didn't, been on that journey with a few different companies. So I'd love to do a bit more of that as well. And then probably management in the future. It's just the timing. There's benefits to being an individual contributor. There's benefits to being a manager. I like the development side a lot, so I think I can scratch that itch, maybe doing a bit of part-time consulting, as well as obviously my day job with Work Vivo and selling into all these great companies. And it's great, and it's great that we're busy, and it's great there's an amazing appetite for it, because again, it means the companies care, which is more important than just people caring, right? So yeah, that's a big thing as well.
Well, both of your exits were to F1 sponsors, right? Peakon to Workday, Work Vivo to Zoom. So if anyone wants to exit to a Formula One sponsor, hire you, and you're on for the triple, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I've still not made it to Silverstone. I'm working on it. But yeah, I mean, it's two slightly different journeys. So a few things that kind of I'd say that they kind of overlap on those two journeys. Both great companies in their own right, and both culturally very, very strong. That's two things. I think the culture at Peakon was amazing. I've said it for years. When I had job interviews and they said, "How was Peakon?" It didn't feel like a job. We were socially with the team 3 or 4 times a week, on top of being in the office, on top of like doing our number. The European guys, I think pretty much everyone was hitting their number for solidly for 2 years, which is unheard of. But yeah, if anyone wants to take me to Silverstone, please drop me a message.
Well, that works perfect for my next question, which is around gifting. Have you ever tried gifting in your sales role? Have you ever utilized it? Has it worked?
Well, just before we dive into that, I've got a question for anyone who's still listening. Got a bit of a challenge. So our mutual friend is getting married next summer in Sweden, right? So beautiful couple, great couple. I wish them every happiness. I just want to say that on record. I've been invited to Oasis. I've been gifted a ticket to Oasis on the same day. They're this little band from Manchester who are doing like a reunion tour, because I think they're both divorced and they need the money. Write in the comments, or maybe you can put a quick poll in. Do I go to the wedding or do I go to Oasis? If anyone's still listening, please let me know.
And isn't the wedding's like 1 p.m, Oasis is 9 p.m. or something, right? So you might have enough time if you get them to hurry through the vows.
Maybe I'll just be the vicar or whatever. Not the vicar, you know what I mean. I'll lead the ceremony and just go, rate of play. So yeah, answer that. No, we can't do that. The ceremony's at 4:30. The Gallaghers are on at 9. So unfortunately, I did look at that. Gifting. I think Harry. Thank you, Harry. Yeah, I always liked Harry for his frank opinions. Gifting. Again, you've got to hyper personalize it. I don't think throwing money at the wall for nothing is worth it. So, I mean, gifts I've seen in the past: a coffee for Starbucks, a cupcake.
Alistair saying you've been to too many weddings already.
The irony that I've been to 2 of his is not lost on me either. So that's great. So it's got to be right. You've got to gift it. You've got to gift properly. Again, I just think throwing money at people for the sake of it. I think if it's something really personal, great, and you know them, that's one thing. I think if you don't, then why are you sending it? It's a bit strange. And yeah, so I think it's got, again, hyper personalized. It's got to fit that person. You got to know that person. You got to care for that person. If I sent you a flower arranging course or something, you'd be like, no. But if I sent you a little ticket to the San Siro to see the Milanese derby, you'd be like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you'd definitely book a
So,
demo with me if you sent that, like without a doubt.
there you go. There you go. Your wedding's coming up, so flower arranging might come in handy at some stage.
Yeah, if I could make the flowers myself, that would save a lot. Also, I think if I could make the chairs myself, I don't know if you know this, but apparently the chairs you have at your wedding, very important.
Right.
Alistair maybe can share his chair experience from.
Maybe he knows a chair guy. Again, power the network. I'll connect you two together, and you can talk about some chairs.
But earlier, you showed me before the call. You've been gifted by one of your prospects, right?
Sort of, not quite a prospect, but again, back in the day. So during lockdown, I sold to this company. I can't obviously talk about the company, but there are other logistics companies available, but great company. And they reached out a couple of weeks ago and they said, James, we really enjoyed working with you. And we kind of kept in touch over the years. They're not a WorkVivo customer. They are a Peakon customer though, still, which is great. But they asked me to do a talk on employee experience.
You sold to them over 4 years ago then?
Correct. Yeah, 4 years ago. They're still using the same software I sold them 4 years ago, which I was very proud about. I did a little talk for them, and I didn't charge them and things like that. But they sent me a lot of goodies, and they sent me a little logistics truck, which is very sweet, and lots of swag. I think there's a couple of water bottles and things like that. So, really nice to kind of be back in touch, and hopefully they're a little bit small for me to work now, unfortunately. But hopefully I can give our mid-market team a nice warm lead from the network. They've offered to introduce us to their internal comms team, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. And it was just nice to help out. Again, someone I used to work with.
Yeah, we
spoke for a year. We got on very well, and it was nice for them to reach out, and then also to send me all the swag. So thank you, Ivana and Bob, if you ever watch this.
Did you ever know Henry, German rep at PlanHat? Did you overlap with him?
A little bit, yeah.
So he some of the stories, he was an absolute king of super personalized outbound and like building relationships, even in like SME HubSpot deals, which if you remember at their peak, you didn't even get a demo. They were selling so much, they would just send you a 15-minute recording and the link to pay. So like it was the opposite of actually having to run a deal. He more than once, I believe, got sent like a company mug from one of the companies that he sold to because they so liked working with him. They were like, "Oh, we've sent you a mug with our logo, so you can have it in the office." And I just love the measure of a rep is almost have you been gifted by someone that you sold to?
For sure, right? And I think that's really important. I think there's obviously different rules and bribery rules and things like that that ruin the fun, I'd say, from what it used to be. But yeah, absolutely. And I think, like we talked about, that two-way street. Yes, they bought from you, and let's be honest, as a sales rep, you're probably going to be getting your commission on all of that stuff. But it's nice to have like the human touch and the little logistics lorry, or the whatever gift you've been, or the mug, or whatever. It's the again, it's the caring piece. People are thinking about you, and the same with like networking, right? Oh, I can't work with you, but I think you can work with someone else, and they're thinking about other people, and people like that, as well. I think that, and that's really important. The human element in a world, I think, that's becoming more and more automated, online, digitalized, is really, really important. I've got a friend who still writes letters. It's like thank you letters and stuff like that. It's unheard of now, but it's so nice when they send a letter and they've got lovely writing. And Ali actually works for a stationery company, so it's not a shameless plug for him. But I think little human touches are really, really important as well. I think people forget that. People are so glued to their phones now, or glued to whatever. So yeah, really key.
So then, do you think then, like, what's next in sales? Like, it's always changing. Like, we're seeing cold calling used to be the standard 10, 15 years ago. It seems to be fading away. Emailing, I mean, even the former CRO of Outreach has launched a new company talking about how like just mass outreach doesn't work anymore. Like transitioning towards being more and more lovely wedding invites, being more personalized. super important. Do you think it's like technology that helps you be more personalized at scale? But if we're just using AI to do that, we all end up with the same message. So it's personalized to the individual, but we've all sent the same personalized message. Like, what do you wish you could do more of? What do you see as next, and what would you like to do?
Yeah, I think it's difficult. I think the hunt is on, again, like being different. You know, I was different 10 years ago when I was messaging people on LinkedIn. Everyone's doing that now. You know,
No.
people are doing video stuff less, but again, you're a little bit different doing that now. What's going to be the next differentiator, difference maker? You know, the thinking outside the box method. VR will be quite interesting. If you could do like a little VR demo or like a little tour around the product in VR. I've heard about a few, avatars and things like that that you could kind of do a demo on. That they're quite cool. I think it's about being different. I think, what do I wish I could be doing? Yeah, tricky. I think just being different. I think to the people watching the call, I think you've just got to think about with what you do, how can you be different and how can you be memorable? I think that's the key thing. We're saturated with communication, content, messages, emails. How can you be the one that stands out and goes, oh yeah, I'd love to talk to Christian about that. But that's different for different industries and different products and things like that. What could I be doing more of? I think, yeah, obviously Chris Ritson's a good friend. He's got an amazing personal brand on LinkedIn. Everyone knows him for better or for worse. And don't worry, as a friend, we do take the mick out of him.
He takes a mick out of himself, which full credit. Like he owns it.
He does. But yeah, the personal brand stuff on LinkedIn, I think is really interesting. I think there's a limit of what you can and can't do, or what you should and shouldn't do. Again, being authentic, being yourself, and things like that. But definitely more networking though. To be honest, I've got lots of good contacts over the years. Great kind of very diverse group of friends that I could be reaching out to, and they'll know someone who knows someone. The networking part is definitely something I should be better at, considering the possibilities that I have available.
Yeah, and this is kind of how we think about it at Comsor, in that you can write the best cold outbound email. It could be hyper personalized, completely nail. Like it can reference something they did 6 years ago. Like it can be so on the money, but if it lands in the inbox with 100 other cold emails, there's a good chance, that CRO, that CEO, that head of HR comes in the morning and just goes click all the way down to here, delete. So it's figuring out like what's the medium in which you're getting the message into their hands. And this is what excites me so much about networking, because it's like, if someone sent me a cold email, very, very high likelihood I'm not going to read it. Not even I'm too good to read it. It might go to my spam. I'll click open and be like, wait, what is this about? I'll come back to this later, and it sits. If you were to directly introduce me to someone, immediately they're going to get my Calendly link. I wouldn't even necessarily read what's the context. If they were asking to sell me something, asking for my help, asking for advice, I'd be like, yeah, look, here's, like, you've become my gatekeeper instead of my email inbox being the gatekeeper. And I think that to me is what is so exciting about the being different. And what I like a lot is you can't fake that. You can't hack that. Like if I ask you to introduce me to someone and you don't trust me enough, or you don't think it's right for that person, you're going to be the one that goes, no, look, I'm not going to do that. Like you're trying to trade on my name, and I'm not going to co-sign this loan with you. So I think I love the future of that. Have you tried anything like that? Do you see anything else that's like it changes the medium of delivery?
Yeah, just through friends, basically. If I see there's a mutual LinkedIn connection, again, Gabe's very good at that. If you've seen that I'm connected with someone, or that I used to work with someone, or whatever that is, he's very good at that. Like I said, I could be better at that. I think it's tricky on LinkedIn because people add for the sake of adding. Like in the early days of Facebook, where I was 15 or whatever, and I was adding everyone with my name. So I had about 50 James Munros, and I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? What are we going to gain from this? So you've got to be better at that. I think it'd be good to know when you do that, if there's a way of filtering, who are your good connections? Who are your, say you've got 500 connections. Who are the 100 in there that you know well? Okay. Who are the 50 who you'd be happy to reach out to? Okay. I think that'd be really interesting, because then you can have, a way of just filtering through that and going, oh yeah, these people would be up for a chat. Or, I go to the football with this guy every Saturday. Yeah, he'll absolutely have a chat with you. I'll just buy him a pint the next time West Ham play, as an example, right? So that'd be a great way of doing it. There's no real good medium to do it that I've seen. I've obviously seen you guys very briefly, and obviously sent it to the powers that be in WorkVivo and Zoom. If you're listening, if you're watching, so it needs to be better though. It definitely needs to be better, because you've got a massive data set and it's massively greenfield, and you're probably missing out on a lot of stuff that's literally right in front of you. I mean, my favorite meeting that I booked as a BDR, I was at a wedding. Shock. One of the 45 weddings I've been to. And I was one of my best friends. He's actually due to have his second son soon, or his wife is rather. At his wedding, one of the groomsmen, random seating plan. So he was sitting next to Ellie, lovely girl, never met her before. And then I can't remember who was on my right hand side. I think it was a friend from school. And talking to Ellie, similar part of the world to me, blah, blah, blah. I was back at Peakon, so employee experience platform. And I said, we were wine bodies. At a wedding, you tend to have someone who you pour the wine, they pour the wine, you kind of have a drink. Getting on really well with her and her husband. And I said, what do you do? And she said, oh, I work in employee experience. And I was like, okay. I was trying to play it cool. And I said, oh yeah, I sell an employee experience platform. She said, oh, that's interesting. We're looking for something like that at the moment. I was like, okay. Who do you work for? And she goes, KFC. I was like, oh yeah, again, try to play cool, too cool. I was like, oh yeah, I've heard of them. They do like chicken and stuff. Anyway, perfect timing. I said, look, I know you're going to go off and have another nice holiday in Italy for the next week or so. Can I just get your email? I'll email you as soon as I'm back, as soon as you're back, and then we connect. They ended up buying Peakon for KFC. And it was from Sam's wedding, sitting next to Ellie, completely randomly, to then buying the product. And the power of the network, right? And you're not even trying, but you could sit at a wedding, your next wedding, talk to 5 people. 3 might not be right. 1 could give you a referral, and that could be a massive deal and make you hit target. So small things like that, I just think are really powerful, but literally right under our nose, and we're not really doing much about it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember so often, you put a deal in, close one, ring the bell, and a CSM will comment underneath going, oh, that's so cool that he's going to be a customer again. And you're like, what? Like you knew the buyer? Yeah, I know the buyer really well. You're like, what? Why did I outbound for 6 months to get the meeting? When you're like, oh yeah, you should have just asked. Like, how did, like you said, it's not even like when we talk about the network, it's not even like people 2 degrees of separation or people that you see once a year. It could be someone in the office that just doesn't realize that they've got the perfect warm intro for you. I've spoken with some companies where they get all the sales team and like a chunk of the C-suite just in a room on a Friday. And I think their structure was the CRO sat at the front and you were all around the table and you took it in turns just going up with your laptop and being like, these are the 4 people I need to know whether you've got an intro to. And the CRO just on LinkedIn, you had 1 hour, you had 5 minutes each, just taking it in turns to go through. And you're like, okay, at least you're trying to get the intros, but that's got to be an inefficient way to do it when you think of the salaries to put 20 people in a room like that.
I mean, love the idea, but yeah, if you could, like I said, if you could do that more easily or digitize it, it'd be a lot better. Smarter, not harder, right? I think.
Love it.
That's a bit.
Let's throw this as open as possible. What do you think is wrong with sales? Going as big and as broad as you possibly want.
What's wrong with sales? people not listening. Sounds very general. Both sides, right? So again, another story. I was on the way to actually a sales interview in the cab on the way to this interview, and I said, obviously started chatting with the bloke, and he genuinely used to sell double glazing, and I was like, God, that sounds like the worst job, ever, selling double glazing, door to door double glazing. And I said, okay, what's the one tip you've got for me? And he said, you've got 2 ears, 1 mouth. Use them in that ratio. And I loved it. And I still use it today. Salespeople don't listen enough. And then they don't ask enough questions off the back of that, but they don't have anything coming in. So they've got not enough questions or discovery kind of off the back of that. So I think that's a big challenge. I think the lack of personalization is pretty poor. I've been trying to get a mortgage this week, and I actually got one finally.
Congrats.
But the broker, thank you, the guys setting me up for it were just lying to me as well. They're like, yeah, it'll take 1 day. And I was like, hang on, it'll take 1 day? It can't be right. Oh yeah, it actually takes 52 days. And I was like, well, hang on, where are we going? So I think, again, the lack of authenticity, the lack of openness, I think is really key. So what's wrong with sales? I think the listening piece is not done enough. I don't think discovery is done enough. I'm very, very big on discovery. And then the authenticity piece, I think is really key. And that's not saying, again, like a mum comment before you go on your first date, just be yourself. Just be yourself. I'm not saying that, but find stuff that works for you. I've known you for a number of years, and you'll say, when we're kind of saying goodbye, you'll say, let's have a cuddle, right? That works for you. And you're saying, let's hug goodbye. If I said that, and I said it once, I felt like I was going to get arrested. Right?
To be clear, give us a cuddle. Give us a cuddle. Give us a cuddle. The exact phrasing.
Give us a cuddle. So even more, forceful. Give us a cuddle. So that works for you. I can't get away with that, but that's authentic to you, and that's you, and it works for you. Yeah. I think that's really, really key. So yeah, there's not enough authenticity. There's not enough listening, and not enough discovery for me in sales at the moment.
I think so. I agree with you, and I think what I've seen that ties them all together is what's happening more and more is sales reps are being told, like, these are the 3 good fit personas that we sell to. And so they're going into a sales call, not really doing discovery, just trying to discover which one of these personas do they most fit into. Not are they one of these personas, but which one of these are they the most, because then I'll do a slightly different demo flow. I've got 3 demo flows. I'm trying to figure out which one of the 3 I should be doing. And so instead of approaching it with what I quite like, which is, how do I disqualify this company? I'm going to go in and try and prove that they're not a good fit. And if I ask all the questions, and actually at the end, we're both like, oh no, yeah, this looks like it could probably work for you then. Should we jump in the product? Like, I'll know what problems they actually have and why they could be a good fit. And equally, is one of the nicest things when you do a discovery call and 10 minutes in, you go, I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't think we can help. And I've had it where the buyer goes like, what? Like, no, like, I think you should go look at like this other kind of style of software. And they're like, no salesperson has ever told me I can't. Can I just have a demo? Can you just show me the product? Like, no, I really want to know what it does. You're like, I'll show you around. And then I've had it before where they will go, you're right, this isn't for me, but let me introduce you to this other person that I think it is right for. I mean, like, that came from just being like, look, we can't help you, and there's no point us spending the next 2 months working together to reach a point where we both look at each other and go, oh yeah, this doesn't really work for you. Like, we're all just wasting time doing that. Like, let's help you get to your outcome. And if I can't get you there, let me at least point you to the shop that might be able to.
The openness is going to build respect, right? I think challenging people, it might be tough, and some people can't take it, but it definitely helps build respect eventually, and then that trust on the back of that. Because if you're just being honest and you're truthing it with people, I think people go, oh, you know what? Okay, I understand that. They might question you for that, and you've got to be willing to back that up. but I think, yeah, the openness piece is really key in building that trust further down the line.
Love it. We're nearly at the end, so I'd like to invite you to just shamelessly sell WorkVivo. I'll give you 30 seconds, minute. Do whatever you want. For anyone who watches this live or watches it back, how can you help them?
Yeah, this is like Hot Ones, isn't it? But like a kind of tech version of Hot Ones without the hot sauce. WorkVivo. So I'll try and humanize it. I'm not going to do the classic sales pitch. I think every relationship, and when you talk about trust, every relationship is built on communication. Every good relationship is built on communication. The relationships that we've probably lost over the years are probably based on bad communication. So again, how are you communicating with your employees is the question you should think about. Are you actually getting through to them is the other question you should think about. And do they care about being and belonging to your organization, I think is something else. So WorkVivo, again, sales pitch here, so apologies, less human part, but 3 main areas. Communications, the idea here is basically communicating to people in the right way at the right time by the right methods for them. Mm-hmm. The second part is really linking up all the different tools that you've got in your ecosystem so everyone can find what they need to find when they need to find it and connect. And the last part is engagement, that sense of belonging. So I work for Den Hartog Logistics. This is what it means to be a truck driver in Poland, as an example. And this is what it means in terms of the company values, in terms of why I'm here and why I joined and things like that. What are you doing around those different areas? I imagine a lot of companies aren't communicating as well as they could be. Why not? Happy to have a conversation or talk about football or chicken wings or weddings or whatever you want to talk about as well.
Love it. And I think what's really cool about that product, when you're particularly doing enterprise and you talk about 100,000 employees, if you can improve, getting through by 5%, that's 5,000 more employees that now understand the message, that now they're in the break room and the topic comes up, they're able to go, oh, no, they told us about this. Like it's going to work this way. So even a tiny percentage improvement when you're dealing with that many employees is a huge shift in adoption and like understanding within the workforce.
Yeah. And I think, again, like the employee experience piece, making people happy, I think communication is so key to that. There's lots of initiatives different companies are doing that people just don't know about because it's not communicated. How do you find that? Oh, I sent an email a month ago. All right, I don't read those emails. I don't read that 20-page newsletter that you send, But if you use a podcast or Ryanair are one of our customers, and they've got a space which is like Ask Eddie, which is Eddie Wilson's there, the CEO. Ask Eddie anything, and Eddie will answer all these amazing questions from people. And it could be, very normal social questions to where are you guys going to fly in the future to whatever it is. I think people care about communication, about connection, whether that's, online or offline, but that human element's really key. And you can't lose that human element. Otherwise you lose a lot of the company, I think.
Love it. We're very much speaking the same language. If anyone wants to learn more about WorkVivo, obviously it's workvivo.com, I would assume. And if anyone wants to speak to James, it's James Munro, Munro, if I've spelled that correctly.
Yeah, not like Marilyn, which I got a lot when I was younger. Yeah,
I see why. Yeah.
Quick question for you.
Go
on camera, Oasis or your mate's wedding?
I mean, I've given you my answer, but Gabe may watch this. So the wedding, you have to do the wedding, mate. Obviously.
I don't think you mean that.
Thanks everyone for watching. If you want to learn more about Comsor, you can check us out at comsor.com. That's CONMSOR. We're always talking about go-to-network and how you can be leveraging your network to build warmer pipeline through referrals and warm intros. James, thank you again for coming along today. And I'll probably speak to you later today.
Yeah.
Cheers.